Good morning. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you today. I welcome all the fathers, and I have my buddy here with me, Dan McCurdy. I like to start with something funny, and so I chose a story from the Reader's Digest. It's a grandma story, and apparently this grandma was looking after her two little ones, a 5-year-old girl and a 3-year-old grandson. And at the end of the day, she got them ready for bed, and they said their prayers, and she tucked them in. Then she went to the bathroom herself to get ready for the night. First, she removed all of her makeup and hopped into the shower. And then as she's coming out of the shower, she hears a ruckus in the other room. So she puts on her robe and wraps a towel around her head and heads in there and says, okay, it's enough. It's time to go to bed now. And as she's closing the door, she hears the little one look up, say to his sister, "Who was that?" Anyway, it was just a fond memory of this grandma, and hopefully each of you has fond memories of your childhood, possibly. And so that's what I'm going to ask you to do right now, is I'm going to invite you to remember something about your dad or a father figure. It could be a funny memory or a fond one, something tender, something touching, sometime when you felt loved and supported. So if you would please just close your eyes for a minute and remember the embrace of a loving man. A man that may have lifted you onto his shoulders or just held you in his arms. Maybe you can remember his scratchy beard or the scent of his cologne or chewing gum. But I imagine you can remember the strength that he offered, his ability to simply lift you up off the ground, to hold you in his arms or give you a piggyback ride. Feel that warm, loving embrace. And when you're ready, just open your eyes, knowing that our loving Father in heaven is continually holding us, embracing us, cherishing each and every one of us. And the memory one of the many memories I have to share of my dad was dancing with my dad. We had a little house and a lot of kids, at that time only 4, when I was about 5 or 6. But in our living room on the hardwood floor, we had one of those big wooden radios, and so they'd tune it into the pop tunes of the 50s at the time. And my dad would take turns with each of us. We'd step right onto his feet and hold his hands, and he would just glide us around that living room floor. It didn't, the sisters, the brother, we'd all take turns being held and loved and dancing with our daddy. So that's a fond memory, and it speaks to me about being held and supported and guiding. And so today's topic is actually about trust. I trusted my father. I trusted him when he lifted me into his arms. I trusted him when I stood on his feet and held tightly. And I trust my Father in heaven. One of my favorite scriptures is Psalm 139, verses 5 through 10. It says, "Where can I go from your spirit?" I love the idea that I simply cannot go anywhere and not be with God. So if I ascend to heaven, you are there. Or make my bed in Sheol, you are there. Even in the farthest limits of the sea, you are there. Wherever I go, your hand shall lead me. You hem me in, behind and before, and lay your hand upon me. So since we do live in a physical world, and we can remember the warm embrace of a father figure, it behooves us to know just by remembering that touch, we can know that our Father in heaven is truly holding us. From Matthew 28:20, remember, I am with you always. And the hymn that says, be still my soul, the Lord is on your side. These words come from the Psalms, the promises about trusting in God's good, God's strength and hope, and about the assurance of God's protection. So, be still my soul, the Lord is on your side. Do we feel safe? Do we feel protected? Do we know that no matter where we are or what we're doing, God is holding us? Or do we get distracted by the world? I'd like to acknowledge the men that are here today. I'm so happy to see each and every one of you here and on Zoom. And to mention that, it isn't necessary to have fathered children to have demonstrated the strength of a father. We have teachers among us or employers. How often have many of you maybe looked up to an employer? I know I did. When I was teaching at Kenmont School, Mr. Massey, he was a father figure to me. I respected him and appreciated him. And the men here today, I hope you can take a moment and reflect upon those times that maybe you looked up to someone, and then to realize how often you too have been looked up to. That someone out there, some young person, appreciates your strength, your guidance, and your love. So I'm happy to remind you of that. And those children, those people, those young people, they trusted you. And we trust God. It just so happens that I am a student of A Course in Miracles, and in the Course in Miracles, the Manual for Teachers talks about the characteristics of God's teachers. And by the way, each and every one of us is a teacher of God. So the very first characteristic is trust. We need to know that any other characteristic depends upon whether or not we have the faith and the trust and the belief to pull it off. Some of the other characteristics happen to be honesty, tolerance, gentleness, joy. Let's just take tolerance, for example. I find myself tolerating a lot of stuff in life. And so to be tolerant, to accept people exactly where they are, it's a matter of trust. Once I've put my trust in God and believe, okay, all shall be well. We're in good hands here. Everything is going just smoothly. I am being guided. I am being held. It's easier to tolerate the things that we seemingly don't like. Or to be generous. When we give, that takes a lot of trust. To just believe we'll always have enough. And finally, this one, defenselessness. To be defenseless? Wow. That's not a characteristic we often talk about. But I'm sure there are some martial arts that depend upon that, depend upon being defenseless, to not attack, but to deflect the blows. And how do we do that? By trusting in our ability. In the case of martial arts, I guess in their abilities, but in us, we can trust in God. So in the Course in Miracles, in that very same section on trust, it says, when we learn to trust that the world is governed by a power that is in us but not of us, a power that keeps all things safe, we then look upon a forgiven world. And it's impossible to trust in one's own petty strength ever again. I'm going to take that in reverse. So, trusting in one's own petty strength. I was kind of surprised to see that. That's what we do. We think, I've got to get this done, instead of just resting back. Okay, I'll tell you something else I read recently. It was about confidence. I read somewhere that if I want to appear more confident, I should walk more slowly. Well, that surprised me because I thought, wow, people that walk fast, and I happen to be one of them, that they get it done, they're out there taking care of business. But in fact, I started practicing. I thought, okay, I'm going to practice this. I'm going to walk more slowly. Then I realized it wasn't just a matter of walking. It's in everything that I do. It's the way I drive. It's the way. So I slowly started adding this slower, confident feeling to my life, knowing again that God has it. He's got me covered. So I don't need to get it done. I don't need to be in a hurry. I can take my time. Each of us can. Now, the other interesting thing about this statement was, in a power that is in us, but is not of us. Now, I've been hearing that for decades, and I didn't even realize it was from this passage in the Course in Miracles. So yes, of course, we have this grand power that we call God. And it's not necessarily of us. That, I think, just means to remember that God is our source, that there is this true grand power, and it flows through us, and we can open ourselves to it and know that we're safe. And then it goes on to talk about a forgiven world. Because isn't that what happens when we practice tolerance and gentleness and joy and defenselessness? We're forgiving. We're letting go. And what is forgiving? Love. Love is forgiving. Trust also is the word surrender. It comes up, I'll talk in a minute about Louise Hay and something she suggests. So the word surrender, I really thought about that because when I took ballroom dancing in my early 50s, late 40s, I had a great teacher. He was a professional. He was remarkable. And even though I only took a few weeks' lessons, I learned so much from him. But at one time, well, first of all, let me back up. He taught, the first thing he teaches, or any good instructor, is you hold frame. So when I told you I stood on my dad's feet and I held his hand, it was important that I held myself up, that I lifted my shoulders back, that I held my head high. Otherwise, if I was just like a wet noodle, my dad would be just kind of sloshing me around. But no, it's important to hold frame. And so in ballroom dancing, when I took it, I said to my teacher, I said, it's great to dance with you here, but when I go to the Saturday night dances and I dance with all the guys, they're at all different levels. And he said, Barbara, I'm teaching you to follow. And that's exactly what he was teaching me. In ballroom dancing, or partner dancing anytime, I took lessons because I was so tired of being the leader. I was a single mother and I was exhausted. And this was an opportunity for me to get on the dance floor and to not lead. So many women do. They get out there and they try to lead, but that's not the way it's supposed to be. This is a chance to let the man lead. And if you hold that frame and you're firm, you feel the little nudges, the little nuances that guide you, that show you the way. And that's exactly what God is doing. But so long as we're leading, we'll miss the message. So it's up to us to surrender. Yes, be firm in our hold, but surrender our minds. Pay attention. Be just one beat behind. Know that God is there with a message showing us and telling us what to do. And what to do brings me to what's mine to do. I like to reflect on the lessons that we've had over the past weeks. And Sandra Vella's been coming to us each month and asking us, what's mine to do? Last week, Reverend Carla, totally unrelated, but she didn't know about Sandra Vella, but she also asked the question and posed it to us. Ask yourself, what is mine to do? If you're going to follow your father, then you need to pay attention and be just a second behind, listening, attentive. Also, she happened to mention dancing last week. I want to bring up what Stephanie Bellocchio said a few weeks ago because it really struck me. I'm not sure what it has to do with dancing, but I loved it. She said, "You're not broken. You are becoming." Well, I took that to heart. I took it I thought, I'm not broken, but you know what? I never was. But I didn't know that. Growing up, there were so many times, especially in my 20s and 30s and 40s, that I felt so broken. But we're not broken. We are becoming. And part of that is this dance of life, this dance with God. And so in unity, we have the principles. And of course, the fifth principle is it asks us to practice. So I think I can say all five of them. To begin with, we have God, and we know that God is present in. Number one, God is everywhere present. Number two, we have that spark of divinity in us. Our thinking is number three. That's what creates our reality. And prayer and meditation is the highest form of thinking. So the more we practice prayer and meditation, the higher our thinking will be. And that's the third, or the fifth, the last, is to practice. So I ask you each time I speak, and I ask myself, what am I doing to practice what I'm teaching, what I'm learning? And I want to encourage you, if you haven't already, to subscribe to the Daily Word. I've mentioned it before, but it's just evolved over the years. We have access here in the library to some older editions, and they're nice, they're feel-good words, but the words of 2025, 2020, they hit deep. I loved yesterday's. Yesterday's was embracing life, and I felt embraced. Today, Father's love, and reminding us that we all, especially the men among us, they demonstrate that love and support, whether they realize it or not, but that it's God's love coming through each of us. So I encourage you, if you haven't already, to subscribe to the Daily Word. I said that I was going to talk about Louise Hay because I think she's just a marvel. I don't know how this woman came into existence, but if you haven't visited her on YouTube, she's deceased, but there are hundreds of YouTube videos with her affirmations. Louise Hay is sometimes called the Queen of Affirmations, and one of her videos that I watched the other day, I usually listen to one every morning while I'm doing my exercises. So this one, she recommends 5 morning practices. So before you even open your eyes, if you can, have a grateful heart. Just think, I'm awake, I'm alive, great bed, comfortable, I feel good. So anything else you want to add, but begin with gratitude. Secondly, she asks that we set an intention. Now, the first time I heard that, being the do person that I am, I thought, oh yeah, I've got my do list. It's not about what I'm going to do in the day. My intention needs to be a spiritual intention. And that's where the Daily Word kind of helped me, because there is a word and I can choose that word if I want. It could be tranquility for the day, or protection, goodness, joy, or faith. So first I am grateful, and then I set an intention for the day. I'm going to tell you, one of my favorite intentions is flow. Eric Butterworth wrote a book, In the Flow, and ever since I read that a couple decades ago, I'll occasionally have a flow day. I get a lot done on any given day, but a flow day has, I have less resistance. I simply allow myself to go from one task to the next, and I'm generally amazed at the end of the day. not just at how much I got done, but about how good it felt to simply flow. And I think that's related to dancing too, to just allow the flow. So, as I was saying, gratitude, set an intention, a spiritual intention. Movement, which I told you I usually listen to these affirmations while I'm doing my morning exercises. And then the toughest one for me, she wants us to express self-love words in the morning, preferably in the mirror. Well, I started reading Louise Hay in the 70s, and I still haven't developed that habit. But I'm sure it's a worthy one to say, I love myself, exactly as I am, as I'm here now appearing in this form. And then number 5 is surrender, which she says is trust. Trusting in God, trusting in ourselves, trusting in the universe. So we simply surrender and know that God is. And so I usually give a homework assignment, and I will say that I know you have your practices, just as I have, but I would encourage you, as Reverend Harris did also, to pick up something new, add another book. We have a library here that is just rich in literature. One of my tasks is to go in there and remove some books from the shelves that maybe aren't being used. Well, I get in there and I get lost. I start reading this book, and then 30 minutes later, I'm into another one, and before you know it, I've spent an hour and a half, and I say, okay, I'm done. So even if that's the way you do it, come on in. Spend some time in the library, enjoy the literature, and I will mention H. Emily Cady, because her book, Lessons in Truth, in Unity, is second to the Bible. If you didn't know that, it's that Lessons in Truth that inspired the 5 principles of unity. And when you read Cady, she's wonderful at giving evidence to her word through the Bible. So she lists the scriptures that support her ideas. So again, whatever your practice is, could be the daily word, could be Louise Hay on YouTube, or other Unity literature. I'm also going to mention I don't know if he's still our poet laureate. It's James Dillett Freeman, because he's been deceased for a while. So, but he was for many, many years, probably several decades, because he did live to be over 100. And I encourage you again to get a hold of some of his literature. And by the way, you can get Unity literature for free. You can just call them up and ask. This little booklet, You Are Not Alone, is still available in English. I actually have a copy in Spanish, which I absolutely love this very same poem in Spanish. It's called I Am There. Do you need me? I am there. You cannot see me, yet I am the light by which you see. You cannot hear me, yet I speak through your voice. I am at work, though you do not understand my ways. I am at work, though you do not recognize my works. It goes on to say, I am there when you pray and when you do not pray. I am in you, and you are in me. Only in your mind can you feel separate from me, for only in your mind are the mists of yours and mine. Only in me does the world have meaning. Only out of me does the world take form. Only because of me does the world go forward. Do we believe this? No. We turn and rely on our own petty strengths. We forget. We forget that God is the law on which the movement of the stars and the growth of living cells are founded. I am the love that is the law's fulfilling. I am assurance. I am peace. I am oneness. I am the law that you can live by. I am the love that you can cling to. I am your assurance. I am your peace. I am one with you. Though your faith in me is unsure, my faith in you never wavers, because I know you, because I love you. Beloved, I am there. There are other poems written by James Dillett Freeman and other, we probably have a new poet laureate that I'm just not familiar with. In closing, before we do a brief meditation, I'm going to share some words of Connie Fillmore Bassey, the granddaughter of Charles and Fillmore. In the little brochure called Unity Today, she writes that unity is based on an idea. Our church is based on an idea. She says it's a powerful idea that we can use every day in every situation. She says, and I quote, "The idea that holds us is that of a good and all-powerful God, whose love indwells us and gives us everything we need to live happy, healthy, and productive lives." I truly hope that you do sit in the silence, walk more slowly, feel that loving presence that assures us and comforts us. And so, in closing, let's just do a brief 3 or 4 minute meditation. If you would please just remove anything from your hands. Place your feet on the floor and close your eyes. I invite you to feel the support of the pew beneath you, holding your back. You are held, you are loved, you are supported. And bring your attention to your breath, releasing fully. Inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. And when you practice this, try to exhale a little longer than your inhale. So let's just breathe in for a count of 4. Inhale through your nose, 2, 3, 4. Hold. And now exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. And now just allow your breath to flow. And think about being grateful. I am so grateful that each of you is here today. I'm grateful for Unity Church. I'm grateful for the love that we share. We're healthy, we're strong, we're viable, we're wealthy, we're prosperous, we're wise, we're brilliant. So very much to be grateful for. And now, if possible, set an intention for the day. Is there some thought, some word that you'd like to carry with you? Yesterday, I decided to be worry-free. Today, I hope to be kind. It could be peace, love, joy. It could be gratitude. I encourage each of you to get out and move around today to feel the love and strength in your body. And if you pass by your reflection, wink and say, I love you exactly as you are. And do these things knowing that you are safe, that you are held, that you can trust in the Father's embrace. And now, when you're ready, open your eyes, smile, and get ready for our announcements. God bless you.